I am
White
not getting
woman
off this plane.
steals
You
black
can't make me...
CEO's seat, then realizes
Ma'am,
she's
you are on the
flying
wrong
on the
flight.
CEO's airline. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help.
They know about the
We've
plan.
noticed that the channel is
We need to
losing
act now.
traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. That's my seat. 3 words. Sharp enough to slice through the calm hum of first class. Heads turned. A few passengers froze mid-sip of champagne. In seat 2, Ampere's a blonde woman looked up from her designer tote expression, dripping with practiced entitlement. She didn't even blink. "That's cute," she said, smiling thinly. "Maybe check economy, sweetheart." The room shifted, quietly, dangerously. Vanessa Clark stood tall in tailored mustard yellow, calm, poised, not a wrinkle out of place. She held her boarding pass between 2 fingers like evidence in a trial. The man in 2B coughed uncomfortable. Another lifted his phone just enough to record. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The tension was already loud. Vanessa's gaze never wavered. "My name's on that seat," she said evenly. The woman scoffed. "And I'm the Queen of England." A flight attendant appeared, drawn by the static in the air. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, already glancing at Vanessa first, not at the woman occupying the seat. "No problem," the blonde replied. "Just someone lost." The words landed like a slap. Not physical. Sharper, cleaner, practiced. Vanessa's voice didn't rise. "Could you run the name Clark, please?" The attendant hesitated, fingers brushing her tablet, eyes flicking up again with that quiet, polite suspicion Vanessa had known her whole life. Same tone, same stare. Different uniform. The cabin lights dimmed slightly as boarding finished. Overhead, an announcement played, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Astra Airlines, Flight 914. Vanessa exhaled slowly. Irony has its own sense of timing. Because Astra Airlines, the company whose logo shimmered on the cabin wall, was one of her own. 40% owned by Horizon Group. Her company, her empire, her sky. But right now, no one knew that. They just saw a black woman standing in the wrong place. "Ma'am," the attendant said softly, "please don't make this difficult. The seat's already taken." Vanessa's lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite surrender. "You're right," she said. "It is." And in that single sentence, the cabin seemed to hold its breath. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Vanessa Clark. She didn't move, didn't argue. She just stood there, elegance wrapped in stillness, holding a ticket like truth itself, and the truth was about to take flight. The jet door sealed with a hollow thud. The sound carried through the cabin like a verdict. Vanessa Clark lowered herself into the nearest empty seat, still holding her ticket, calm, precise, every motion deliberate. She didn't glance at the woman in 2 Amperes again. Some storms don't deserve the dignity of attention. Outside the oval window, the runway shimmered with late afternoon heat. Inside, air conditioning hummed like a suppressed argument. The flight attendants moved through the aisles, smiles, tight eyes, scanning her the way people do when they've already decided who doesn't belong. Vanessa opened her tablet screen, dimmed low. A folder blinked, Astra Board Quarterly Review. Beneath it, one line glowed in soft blue, pending diversity audit. In-flight service. She almost smiled. Almost. 20 years ago, she'd have argued, tried to explain, tried to prove she belonged. Now she knew better. In rooms built to test your composure, silence was strategy. "Ma'am, can I see your ticket again?" The attendant's tone was polite, the kind of polite that bruises. Vanessa handed it over without looking up. He studied the barcode, frowned, then handed it back. "It's showing as confirmed, but not assigned." A neat trick. She recognized it instantly. Someone had quietly unlinked her seat in the system. A digital erasure. Subtle. Convenient. Vanessa locked her screen and leaned back. Her mind ticked like an internal clock. Protocol 7 covers identity interference, she thought. But not yet. Not while they're still performing their script. Across the aisle, a young flight attendant, barely 22, nervous, still learning her poise, glanced over with something that looked like concern. Their eyes met for half a second, and in that flicker, Vanessa saw what empathy looks like before it learns fear. The older attendant noticed the exchange. "Mia," she snapped softly, "focus on pre-flight checks." Vanessa turned back toward the window. Her reflection stared back, calm contained unreadable. She remembered another flight 15 years earlier. Chicago to D.C. She'd been younger then, wearing ambition like armor. A gate agent had stopped her at the jet bridge. "Are you sure you're in the right boarding group?" he'd asked. She was. She'd been flying business since 28. But that tone, the same tone echoing now, had followed her from runway to boardroom. The intercom crackled. Flight attendants prepared doors for departure. The woman in 2 amperes reclined, satisfied. Vanessa didn't move. "Would you like me to help you find your correct seat?" the attendant asked again. Vanessa's answer was soft, surgical. "No, but thank you for asking twice." The line landed without volume, just precision. The attendant blinked, unsure whether he'd been dismissed or forgiven. Vanessa returned to her tablet. Her hand didn't shake once. She opened a blank note and typed 6 words, "Document everything. Board will review later." Outside, the engines roared to life. Inside, the quiet tension settled like silk over steel. Because for everyone else, this was just another flight. But for Vanessa Clark, it was a test she'd designed years ago. And the people grading themselves didn't even know it. It started with a laugh, light, sharp, and mean. Seat 2 amperes leaned back just far enough for the sound to spread. "I told you," the woman said, voice sugar-sweet but loud enough for half the cabin. "She's not supposed to be here." The attendant standing near the galley didn't correct her. He just adjusted his tie and said, "Ma'am, please take the available seat while we sort this out." Vanessa's brow barely moved. "Sort out what exactly?" No one answered. 2 passengers in row 3 exchanged glances. One whispered, "I think I saw her standing in business earlier." The other shrugged, uncomfortable, unsure what side of silence to take. Vanessa inhaled slowly, the kind of breath that steadies hurricanes. She'd seen this choreography before: the smile, the assumption, the quiet rewriting of rules mid-air. The blonde shifted in her seat, satisfied. "It's fine," she said to the attendant. "Let her stay there for now. I just hope she doesn't mind sitting near the divider." The word divider hung in the air a little too long, like a slur dressed in civility. A flicker of reaction from the young trainee, Mia. Her eyes darted toward Vanessa, then back to her clipboard. The older attendant shot her a look that said, "Don't." Vanessa said nothing. Her silence was a mirror, and everyone who looked into it saw themselves clearer than they wanted to. "Ma'am, would you like a drink?" the attendant asked the woman in 2 amperes, ignoring Vanessa entirely. "Champagne," she replied, smiling like victory. "Real champagne." He laughed softly, pretending the request was witty. Vanessa heard it all, every syllable polished to sound like manners. She turned to the window again, the clouds outside already forming a pale horizon. People reveal their truth fastest when they think no one important is watching, she thought. Then the blonde leaned over, pretending to adjust her bag, and whispered, "Must be nice sneaking into first class." Vanessa's gaze stayed fixed on the sky. "Must be exhausting defending it." The words were quiet, but the air changed. Row 4 fell silent. Someone coughed into their sleeve to hide a laugh. The woman straightened. "Excuse me." Vanessa finally turned her head. Slow, deliberate. "I said you look tired." The attendant froze mid-step. He wasn't trained for this tone. Calm, elegant, absolute. The intercom chimed again. "Cabin crew, please prepare for takeoff." Vanessa placed her tablet on her lap and folded her hands. "Let's not delay your flight," she said, voice level. "Wouldn't want anyone thinking I caused turbulence." The blonde's mouth opened, then shut again. No reply fit. From the galley, Mia glanced back once more. She saw it, the restraint, the composure, the kind of power that doesn't need witnesses but earns them anyway. As the plane rolled toward the runway, sunlight slid across Vanessa's face, a quiet highlight gold against calm skin. The hum of the engines rose, but so did something else, a quiet reckoning. Every injustice has a beginning, she thought, and this one had just reached altitude. The cabin tilted upward as the plane lifted off, engines humming like a slow heartbeat under metal skin. Seatbelt signs blinked. Conversations dropped to whispers. The air was no longer loud. It was tight. Vanessa Clark sat motionless, eyes forward, posture impeccable. The woman in 2 amperes leaned toward her again, pretending to fix her blanket. "You can relax now," she said, her smile rehearsed. "No one's judging you." But they were. Every glance, every polite avoidance, every small laugh under breath, they all were. Vanessa didn't respond. She simply adjusted her sleeve. The gesture was minor, but it carried weight, like a queen adjusting her crown mid-battle. The older attendant returned, offering another flute of champagne to 2 amperes. "Compliments of the crew," he said. Then, with a perfunctory nod to Vanessa, "Water?" "No," she said, tone clipped, surgical. "I'm fine." He hesitated. Maybe he expected confrontation. Maybe he wanted something he could report as unruly. But she didn't give him that satisfaction. Stillness, after all, was strategy. Stillness unsettled people who expected submission. The engines steadied to a hum. The plane leveled. The woman in 2 amperes opened a magazine, trying too hard to appear unbothered. Vanessa opened nothing. She simply was. Across the aisle, a man whispered, "She's handling this better than I would." His seatmate murmured back, "Yeah, but wait until they ask her to move again." Vanessa heard it. She heard everything. Her calm wasn't ignorance. It was record-keeping. A flight attendant brushed past, the scent of citrus and stress trailing behind her. "Ma'am," she said quietly to 2 amperes, the captain's aware. "If there's any disturbance, we'll handle it." Vanessa caught the phrase "handle it," corporate shorthand for contain her. She tapped her tablet awake and opened a blank note. Timestamp 4:26 p.m. on board incident seat reassignment bias. She paused. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. Then she typed another line. "Remain silent. Observe everything." Power doesn't need witnesses, only proof. Her reflection in the window looked calm, almost detached. But behind her eyes was calculation. Not anger, not fear, just math. Mia, the young attendant, lingered in the aisle again. She looked like she wanted to say something, then didn't. Vanessa spared her a small glance, enough to say, "I see you, but not now." From 2 rows back, a passenger's phone clicked, the sound of someone taking a photo. Vanessa didn't turn. She'd been documented before. But this time she wasn't the story. She was the lesson. "Ma'am, are you comfortable?" the older attendant asked stiffly. "Perfectly," she said. "You may proceed with your service." The calm in her tone made him flinch. There was no aggression in it, only ownership. She looked down at her hands, perfectly still on her lap. Hands that had signed billion-dollar contracts, rewritten policies, changed industries. Now they rested quietly, because power didn't need movement to be felt. The woman in 2 amperes shifted, uncomfortable. The silence was pressing in, thick, heavy, deliberate. Vanessa let it stay that way. When the seatbelt light finally dimmed, she didn't reach for her belt. She didn't move. She simply whispered, almost to herself, "Let them measure grace under pressure." And in that moment, the stillness itself became the loudest thing in the room. The cabin had settled into that strange mid-air quiet, the one that feels polite on the surface but tense underneath. You could hear the whisper of ventilation, the gentle clink of glass, and somewhere in the back, the muffled click of a phone camera. Row 3, seat C. A man in his early 30s held his phone low against his tray. He wasn't recording for drama. He was documenting a moment that felt wrong. The lens trembled slightly as he focused on Vanessa's row. From this angle, she looked carved from calm. The woman in 2 amperes reclined, satisfied, pretending not to see the attention she'd drawn. A flight attendant leaned close, whispering something with a smile that never reached his eyes. The man hit record. The red light blinked once. 3 rows behind him, a young woman, Mia, adjusted the galley curtain, pretending to count drink napkins. Her reflection in the metal panel showed her watching, heart racing. She had only been with Astra for 4 months. The onboarding manual had a whole section titled De-escalation procedures. It didn't mention what to do when the wrong person was being de-escalated. Vanessa turned her head just slightly, as if sensing the lens. Not hostile aware. Their eyes didn't meet, but something in her stillness told the witness, "Keep it steady." The intercom crackled. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached cruising altitude. Cabin crew may begin in-flight service." The routine resumed, but the tension didn't fade. The woman in 2 amperes waved her flute toward the aisle. "Refill, please. The real champagne, not that sparkling water they give in coach." Her tone carried, sharp, performative. The attendant obeyed. Then he looked at Vanessa. "Would you like something to drink now, ma'am?" She met his eyes calmly. "I'll wait until the service standards match the ticket I paid for." A few passengers looked up, quick glances, quiet nods. The witness in row 3 zoomed in, slightly capturing her words. He didn't know her name yet, but he knew dignity when he saw it. Mia heard it too. Her chest tightened. She reached for her service phone, fingers hovering over the incident log app, then stopped. She couldn't. Not yet. Across the aisle, a teenage girl nudged her father. "Why are they treating her like that?" he whispered. "Because some people think money looks a certain way." The girl frowned. "That's stupid." "It is," he said softly. Vanessa heard that conversation. It landed somewhere deep, the kind of echo that reminds you why you fight battles quietly but publicly. She leaned back, eyes closed for the first time since boarding. To everyone else, it looked like rest. In truth, she was counting. Counting tones, gestures, micro-insults. Building a silent report the way an architect measures walls before demolition. The man in row 3 whispered to himself, "This is going to go viral. Maybe it would." But Vanessa didn't need virality. She needed clarity. The captain's voice came over the speaker, warm and detached. "We'll be flying above 35,000 feet, clear skies ahead." Vanessa opened her eyes at the words clear skies. She almost smiled. Clarity indeed. The camera kept rolling, catching the way her fingers rested perfectly still, the way the woman in 2 amperes fidgeted under silence, the way a young trainee looked ready to speak. No confrontation yet, just pressure. The kind that changes the shape of air before a storm. The seatbelt light flicked on again, though the air was calm. It wasn't turbulence. It was control. A male attendant walked down the aisle briskly, posture-stiff headset glinting under the overhead light. You could tell from his stride that someone had escalated the issue. He stopped at Vanessa's row. "Ma'am," he began, voice clipped with authority, "the captain's been notified of a seating conflict. We need you to relocate until we verify your ticket." Every syllable was wrapped in procedure, but the condescension leaked through like static. Vanessa didn't look up. "My ticket's verified," she said softly. "I'm sure you believe that," he replied, smiling like a man used to having the last word. A few heads turned. The witness in row 3 adjusted his phone angle. Mia froze in the galley eyes darting between them. "Sir," Vanessa said evenly, "if you're unsure, feel free to scan it again." "Already did," he said. "System says your seat was released." Released. The word hung there absurd and bureaucratic, like something plucked from an HR manual to justify prejudice. Vanessa folded her hands. "Interesting. And who authorized that release?" "Ma'am, I'm not here to debate policy." "Clearly," she replied. The woman in 2 amperes leaned closer to the attendant. "You see, she's being difficult." "We'll handle it, ma'am," he assured her quickly. Too quickly. He turned back to Vanessa. "If you don't comply, we'll have to remove you once we land." "Remove me?" she repeated, tone calm enough to unsettle him. "From the seat I purchased, the one your system logged under priority status." Her words were exact, legal, precise. He blinked, one moment of hesitation, then recovered. "Those systems can be tampered with." Mia stepped forward before she realized she had. "Sir, the manifest shows a Clark 5, first class 2 amperes." The supervisor's glare cut toward her. "Return to the galley." Her voice dropped. "But it's there. I saw it." "Now," he said louder. The exchange snapped the air. Passengers straightened. Vanessa looked at Mia, a brief flicker of respect passing between them, silent solidarity across the aisle. Then she turned to the attendant. "You said the captain's aware." "That's correct." "Good," she said. "Because he'll want to hear this next part clearly." Her tone didn't rise, but it carried. "You are detaining a verified passenger mid-flight on false grounds, with witnesses and recording devices present." A ripple moved through the cabin. The man in row 3 lowered his phone, an inch stunned. The couple in 4 amperes whispered, "She knows the law." The attendant's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, please calm down." "I haven't raised my voice," she said. "Perhaps it's your conscience that's loud." It landed like a blade, clean, elegant final. Silence followed. Even 2 amperes went still. Outside, the light shifted, that high-altitude gold spilling across Vanessa's face, calm as marble. The attendant stepped back, murmured into his headset. His voice trembled just enough to betray uncertainty. "Flight deck, we might need security on standby after landing." Vanessa heard it. She didn't react. She simply picked up her tablet and opened the same note file, typing one sentence with measured care. "Authority invoked without cause, record begins now." Then she set it down, folded her hands again, and waited. Not like a victim, like someone granting time for others to realize how wrong they've become. The hum of the engines masked the sound of approaching footsteps. But everyone in first class could feel it, that shift in air pressure before something cruel happens in a quiet room. The senior purser arrived, a woman in her 40s, polished, practiced, and visibly annoyed. She carried authority the way others carried handbags, heavy and mostly for display. She stopped in front of Vanessa's row. "We've had multiple complaints about you refusing instructions," she said. "I'm going to ask you one last time to move." Vanessa didn't blink. "Complaints," she repeated. "From whom?" "From passengers who feel uncomfortable," the purser answered, tone official. "We have to maintain the comfort of our guests." The words landed soft but lethal. Comfort of our guests. The oldest cover for exclusion ever written. Vanessa's voice was even. And my comfort doesn't qualify, ma'am, please don't make this more difficult. From row 3, the quiet witness whispered to his camera, "She's not doing anything." His feed caught the flash of a tablet in the purser's hand, the seat map glowing red where 2 amperes should have been green. "Your ticket's void," the purser declared. "You'll need to cooperate before we land." The woman in 2 amperes leaned back, smugly sipping her champagne like an audience member in a play she thought she'd written. "Thank you," she said to the purser. "I was beginning to feel unsafe." That single word, unsafe, twisted the air like smoke. Every head turned not toward the liar but toward the accused. Mia flinched. Her knuckles whitened around the drink tray. The purser caught her hesitation. "Is there a problem, trainee?" "No, ma'am," Mia said quickly, voice trembling. "Just none of this seems right. Enough." The purser snatched the boarding pass from Vanessa's hand, abrupt, public, deliberate. A gasp rippled down the aisle. "This ticket is invalid," she announced loudly for witnesses, "and I'm confiscating it until verification." Vanessa watched the paper tear slightly between their hands. The sound was small, but it echoed. "You just destroyed evidence," Vanessa said quietly. The purser froze for a heartbeat, then forced a thin smile. "Watch your tone, ma'am." "You're bordering on non-compliance," the man filming whispered. "Non-compliance." She's sitting still. 2 passengers behind murmured, "This is wrong." But no one moved. Fear of disruption outweighs the instinct for justice. It always does at first. Vanessa looked up slowly. "You know," she said, "when power feels small, it gets loud." Her voice was low, calm, perfectly modulated. The purser's jaw tightened. "I'll be reporting this to the captain." "Please do," Vanessa replied. "Make sure to spell my name right." She leaned forward, her tone like glass. "Clark." That stopped the purser for just a second. A flicker of recognition, faint, uncertain. Then she turned on her heel and walked away, gripping the torn ticket like a trophy. Silence filled the cabin again, thick and uncomfortable. The woman in 2 amperes whispered, "You should have just listened." Vanessa exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the aisle ahead. Mia's voice, barely audible, drifted from behind the service curtain. "They don't even know who she is." The man in row 3 whispered to his phone, "They will." Vanessa sat back, the last edge of torn paper still in her palm. She didn't look angry. She looked ready. Outside, the sunlight caught her face again, golden, unwavering. And for the first time since boarding, she smiled. Not out of defeat, out of precision. The kind of smile that says, "You just crossed the line I built to catch you." The purser disappeared toward the cockpit, clutching the torn ticket like evidence that wouldn't survive scrutiny. The cabin exhaled, uneasy. A hush spread, not peace, but anticipation. Vanessa Clark reached into her bag, slow and deliberate, as though pulling out patience itself. Her fingers brushed the matte black edge of her phone. One tap lit the screen. No sound, no movement, just the soft glow against her skin. The message thread at the top read Carla Bennett, Exec Ops. Vanessa typed 3 words, "Activate Flight Protocol 7, then hit send." No one noticed. To the passengers, she was simply checking email, the picture of poise under pressure. But 3,000 miles away in a glass tower overlooking New York, a phone buzzed on a mahogany desk. Carla didn't need context. The protocol had been designed for moments exactly like this, discreet escalation when leadership encounters discrimination in company assets. She responded instantly, "Confirmed. Monitoring feed." Legal recording initiated. Vanessa's screen dimmed again. The quiet returned. Seat 2 amperes shifted, impatient. "You're still here," the woman muttered, irritation leaking through her perfume. "Some people just can't take a hint." Vanessa didn't turn. "Some hints aren't worth taking." The line landed flat, soft, final. From the galley, Mia pretended to check supplies, but kept her phone angled just enough to see. She watched Vanessa's stillness. That kind of calm that doesn't ask for respect. It demands it. The intercom cracked. Purser to cockpit. Muffled voices behind the locked door. A few passengers exchanged glances. That half-worried, half-thrilled look people get when something is happening and they don't know which side of history they're on. The man in row 3 whispered into his mic, "She hasn't said a thing since they tore her ticket, but it feels like she's the one in control." And she was, not in noise, in design. Vanessa leaned back. Her phone buzzed once, a silent notification sliding across the screen. "System access granted. Horizon internal flight ownership structure confirmed." Her eyes flicked toward the Astra Airlines logo on the headrest. The one, embossed in silver. It wasn't just branding. It was hers. 40% equity. Her hand rested calmly on the armrest, every motion deliberate. The purser reappeared, tension stiff around her smile. "Ma'am, the captain will speak with you upon landing." "Perfect," Vanessa said. "I'll ensure my team's here to greet him." "Your team," the purser repeated, faltering. "You'll understand soon." The words weren't loud, but they traveled clean through the aisle like current through wire. Mia looked down quickly to hide her grin. The man filming mouthed, "What team?" Vanessa didn't answer anyone. She reached for the folded half of her torn ticket, placed it neatly on the tray, and aligned it with military precision. Every gesture whispered one truth. "You think I'm small because I'm quiet, but quiet is where empires build their answers." Outside, sunlight streaked the clouds like gold veins in marble. Inside, the plane hummed with a tension nobody could name yet. The purser retreated again, but her confidence was cracking. She whispered to the senior attendant, "Something's off about her." "What do you mean?" "The way she sits," the purser said, "like she's not waiting on anyone's permission." Vanessa sipped her water, not rushed, not triumphant, just calm. The camera in row 3 kept rolling. History, after all, doesn't always start with shouting. Sometimes it begins with a single text message and the woman who knew exactly when to send it. It began with a chime, soft, corporate, routine, except this time it didn't sound like routine. The intercom crackled. A man's voice, the captain spoke with practiced calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're currently experiencing a brief systems check initiated by our ownership network. Please remain seated while we confirm verification protocols." Every head lifted. Ownership network. The purser's smile stiffened. She glanced at her tablet and froze. On her screen, a corporate overlay appeared where the seat map should have been. At the top, glowing in silver font, Horizon Holdings, Priority Override Executive Partner Access. A new name flickered beneath it. Clark Vanessa. The tablet beeped. Then the cabin lights subtly dimmed, replaced by a softer gold hue. Even the air changed, that quiet hum of a machine recognizing its master. Vanessa didn't move. She didn't need to. She simply looked up serene, as if she'd been waiting for the plane itself to speak for her. Seat 2 Amperes' occupant frowned. What's happening?" The purser stepped back, muttering, "That can't be right." Vanessa finally turned her head, voice calm enough to slice through metal. "You said my ticket was void. Let's see how void it feels now." The captain's voice returned. "Miss Clark, confirmation received. On behalf of Astra Airlines and Horizon Holdings, welcome aboard and thank you for flying with us." The words echoed through the cabin. You could feel the air tilt, every assumption collapsing mid-flight. Seat 2 Amperes went pale. "Wait," she whispered. "You're 4-4? One of the owners," Vanessa said simply. "Technically, your flight just reported to me. No anger. No volume. Just fact." The purser tried to recover, voice trembling. "Miss Clark, I apologize, we weren't aware." "You weren't supposed to be aware," Vanessa interrupted softly. "That's the test." She stood slow, graceful, the kind of movement that makes even air take a step back. The cabin lights caught the edge of her sleeve like a halo. Mia from the galley stopped mid-breath, eyes wide. The man in row 3 lowered his phone just enough to whisper, "Oh my God, she owns the airline." The purser's tablet chimed again, a new notification, mandatory compliance review initiated, ethics violation in flight. She stared at the screen, horror dawning. Vanessa leaned slightly toward her. "That's not from me," she said. "That's automatic." Silence followed, thick, electric, irreversible. Seat 2 Amperes tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it. It was just—" "You meant exactly what you said," Vanessa replied. "And now you understand how small it sounds." Every passenger could feel it, the shift from humiliation to reckoning. Vanessa reached for her half-torn ticket, smoothed the crease, and placed it back on the tray. "Paper tears easily," she murmured. "Systems don't." Mia stepped forward quietly, carefully, and said what everyone else was thinking. "Miss Clark, thank you." Vanessa looked at her, not as a subordinate, but as a witness. "Don't thank me. Just remember what silence costs." The engines hummed louder as the plane cut through thin air, and for the first time since takeoff, the cabin finally felt balanced. Because justice, when it finally arrives, doesn't roar. It lands. No one spoke for a full 10 seconds. Not even the engines could fill the silence that followed the captain's announcement. It was the kind of silence that happens when truth walks into a room and everyone realizes they've been breathing arrogance. The purser's face drained of color. Her fingers hovered over the tablet as though it had turned radioactive. Seat 2 amperes blinked, her confidence collapsing molecule by molecule. You can't be serious, she whispered. Vanessa turned her head, expression, steady voice, a perfect calm blade. Do I look like someone auditioning for your approval? The words didn't need volume. They carried weight. Mia stood frozen at the galley entrance, eyes wide with the kind of awe that only happens when justice becomes visible and human. The purser finally found her voice. Miss Clark, I had no idea. You didn't need to, Vanessa replied. You just needed to have respect. The tablet in the purser's hand pinged again. Another message. System notice, crew ethics report logged under live compliance review. Her mouth opened, then closed again. What does that mean? She whispered to herself. It means, Vanessa said softly, your company is watching the same feed you are. The man in row 3 lowered his phone for a second, whispering to his seatmate. This is unreal. His seatmate shook his head. No, this is overdue. Seat 2 amperes tried again. I didn't mean to offend you. It was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, Vanessa echoed. Let's review the sequence. You stole a seat, questioned my right to it, watched them strip my ticket, and called me a threat. Which part of that was accidental? The woman's lips trembled. I didn't know who you were. Vanessa leaned forward slightly. That's the point. You shouldn't have to. Her tone wasn't anger, it was disappointment, colder, heavier, unforgettable. The purser whispered into her headset, voice cracking. Cabin control, confirm legal is on the line. A pause. Then a faint voice through the static. Confirmed. Continue standard service. Record only. Mia took a slow step forward. She didn't speak, but her posture said enough. She's on the right side of this. Vanessa noticed and offered a small, almost invisible nod. It wasn't gratitude. It was recognition. Miss Clark, the purser stammered, is there anything we can do to make this right? You can start, Vanessa said, by not calling it this. Call it what it was. The purser swallowed. Discrimination. There you go, Vanessa said. Now you're learning the language of accountability. Seat 2 amperes looked down, hands trembling. Her voice was a whisper. Are you going to ruin my life? Vanessa considered her for a moment. Then quietly, I don't ruin lives, I correct them. The entire cabin seemed to exhale, not in relief, but in realization. Some truths don't come to destroy. They come to reveal. Vanessa sat back again, unbothered, eyes on the skyline through the window. 35,000 feet of quiet power. Mia finally spoke, voice small but certain. You handled all of this without yelling once. Vanessa's eyes softened. Yelling's for people still asking to be heard. She looked down at her hands, steady, timeless. I don't ask. Outside, the sun broke through a band of silver cloud, the light spilling directly onto her face. It wasn't symbolism, it was timing. Because on this flight, dignity had just taken command of the cockpit. The purser stood still, pale and trembling, clutching her tablet as though it could save her. Vanessa looked up at her, unblinking. Miss Clark, the purser began, please understand this isn't who we are, it's exactly who you are. Vanessa interrupted softly. You just forgot whose sky you were flying in. Her phone buzzed once, a discreet vibration against the armrest. She lifted it, glanced at the screen. Carla Bennett board and legal on standby. Initiate, Vanessa typed one word, proceed. Somewhere below the clouds, a compliance officer in New York hit execute. Within seconds, the purser's tablet blinked red. Access revoked, active investigation. Then the senior attendant's headset cut to static. Seat 2 amperes' smirk vanished as the intercom pinged again. This is your captain speaking. Per corporate instruction, an internal review has been triggered. Cabin operations will continue under interim supervision. Please remain seated. The purser's knees nearly gave out. They've frozen my credentials, she whispered. Vanessa's tone stayed even. It's not punishment, it's correction. Mia, still near the galley, covered her mouth in disbelief. The man in row 3 muttered to his phone. She didn't even raise her voice, and they're already gone. Vanessa didn't look proud, just finished. When you hold power, she said quietly, you don't throw it, you aim it. She leaned forward just enough for the purser to hear the final verdict. You'll get an email before we land. It won't end your career, it'll remind you why it almost did. Then she turned her attention to Mia. You spoke up, that matters. File your statement when they ask. Tell the truth exactly as it happened. Mia nodded, her voice trembling. Yes, ma'am. Vanessa gave a faint, approving smile. Good. This airline needs more people like you. Seat 2 amperes tried to whisper something, an apology maybe, but Vanessa didn't look her way. The lesson was complete. The apology was irrelevant. Outside, the clouds parted, and sunlight poured through the cabin like absolution. Vanessa closed her eyes for one breath, then whispered almost to herself, "Justice doesn't shout. It signs in ink and flies at altitude." The engines roared softly beneath her. Above 35,000 feet, order had been restored elegantly, permanently. The clouds thinned, revealing an endless blue horizon, the kind of calm that only follows chaos when truth has spoken. Vanessa Clark sat in silence, her reflection rippling faintly across the window. Around her, the cabin had fallen into an uneasy reverence. No one dared whisper. No one dared look too long. Mia passed quietly, pausing beside her. "We'll be landing soon, Miss Clark," she said softly. Vanessa nodded once. "Then let's make sure we land right." The purser stayed near the back headset, dangling face drawn. She wasn't angry anymore, only aware. And that, Vanessa thought, was the first step toward growth. Seat 2 Amperes sat rigid, hands folded, voice trapped behind shame. The champagne glass was empty now. So was her confidence. The intercom pinged again. "Cabin crew, prepare for descent." Vanessa straightened her jacket, closed her tablet, and looked once more out the window. Her skyline, her sky, her company. Every empire has a moment when silence becomes proof. This was hers. The man in row 3 ended his recording and whispered, "She never had to raise her voice." His seatmate answered, "That's what real power sounds like." The landing gear dropped a low mechanical growl beneath the quiet. Vanessa smiled faintly, the kind that carries neither victory nor vengeance, just completion. When the wheels touched ground, the plane trembled slightly, then steadied. The captain's voice followed. "On behalf of Astra Airlines and Horizon Holdings, we thank you for flying with us." Vanessa gathered her bag. Before standing, she spoke. Not loud, just clear enough to cut through the hush. "I don't need the world to record what happened here. The world already runs on stories like this. But today, it ends at 35,000 feet. She stepped into the aisle, calm, unhurried, untouchable. And as she walked toward the exit, every passenger watched her go, knowing they'd just seen something rare: justice dressed in quiet.